Welcome back to another 1 minute video. I want to address the upcoming open session board meeting on Friday and the proposed rule changes. At last week's board meeting, the board approved to send out for comment proposed rule changes. So, how are the proposed changes from last week different from what the current rules are, and how did we get here? How are clubs and groups different now? The two main differences relate to resident and guest participation and also money. Currently, clubs are 100% resident only with no guest participation allowed. Clubs can also collect monies for shirts, hats, things like that. However, if they do collect money, they have to have an officer, a charter, bylaws, and a bank account in that club name. They would also have to pay any taxes, any permits, fees, etc. While clubs cannot have outside guests, groups can have outside guests. Groups also cannot have a bank account. The original reason for having a club versus a group was for facility prioritization because we always want to put residents first. However, to my knowledge, we've never had a club bump a group out of a room or facility. Last year, the activities director and a board member met with the leadership from the different clubs and groups to see how they were working and what worked and what didn't work. From those meetings, the proposed changes were drafted. So, what are those changes? The main changes are again relating to guests and money. The proposed change allows clubs and groups to have guests participate at a maximum number of 2 per household and not to exceed the number of residents in attendance. If guest attendance would be greater than resident attendance, then the board would have to approve that and a fee may be charged. Guests are not members of the club or group but are participants. Guests would also need to be signed in with a resident sponsor and be with that resident, just like the current guest rules. The proposed change also allows clubs and groups to have a bank account with the same requirements that are now in place regarding a charter or bylaws, officers, and so forth. These proposed changes only allow each club and group to operate in certain ways. These are not requirements. So if a club does not want any guests, then the club will not have to have guests. Also, if a group does not want to collect money, then the group will not be forced to collect money. The proposed change also creates a new category called ROM, which stands for Resident Only Meetings. The category is just what it sounds like, it's for residents only. The proposed change also allows for one large event per quarter for the different clubs, groups, or ROMs. For those large events, they are responsible for their setup and takedown. So those are the main changes that are being proposed for clubs, groups, classes, and now ROMs. So what does not change? The regular guest policy of 6 guests per household remains the same. And guests are still not allowed to use the gym, computer room, sauna, and other facilities just like now. The board is holding an open session meeting this week to discuss and possibly change part of the proposed guidelines prior to sending out for homeowner comment. They are holding the meeting this week so that they do not have to wait until the regular meeting in August. Well, that was definitely more than 1 minute, but thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me.